considering the investment doesn't mean that these farmers just invested with money from their pocket. It is could be these farmers borrowed money from a financier to construct this factory. And in case of separation, it is whether when we take farmers through this process, it is them now to decide whether they are comfortable to meet obligation of all the liabilities that they have, or they will wait until we finalize the process of clearing all the obligations, so that during separation there would be no liability to any of the factory, the satellite or the mother factory. So when they separate, you know that now you've decided to go and take over or own all the costs that you will incur. So this is now the farmers who will own up by approving whatever the procedure or the roadmap it will be developed by various boards for farmers to own. If they decide or they think that they can reverse the procedure, if they don't want to incur this, then we can again proceed with the way we are. The only thing here we need is for farmer to understand the consequences of separation. That's what we want them to understand, because without understanding this, a farmer may think that the life may be very easy for them to stand on their own in a process of manufacturing, selling, and payment of their teas. So even the other cost of managing that factory, the cost of electricity, cost of labor, or operation costs. If the factory does not have a capacity to meet all those costs, then it means even that company may collapse or may not even go far. Because sometimes you find there are satellites that are doing better than the mother, and there are satellites that are doing worse, that they are being supported by mother. So when farmers decide to separate, they need to weigh. Are you able to sustain yourself alone, or you are dependent to your mother? So these are things that we are looking at, and that's why we have a roadmap, so that whoever or whichever factory may decide to separate in future may look at those or that process, and also know the consequence that may arise out of separation.
Get the mother factory separate with the satellite. So it's a process. We are now going for stage 1. Stage 2 will come.
According to the statement that has been issued by the chairman, just to clarify, we have said that the first step of separation that we will have is to have the green leaf be paid to the satellite factory independently. Currently, what we have is like in the Litain farmers, they all have one code of paying green leaf. So what will be done, we will have the green leaf based code for Chelal tea farmers. So that will be the first step. And of course, we will also have, by the end of this the financial year that we are talking about, the current one, that is 2024-2025, which means the financial year that ends in June 2025, the payment of their green leaf now would be paid independently. In order for that to happen, then one of the things that must be done, that there is an investor, there is someone who constructed the factory, who is the shareholders of Litain Tea Factory. So they will have to be paid dividend to compensate those farmers, because they have invested in that new factory. That is the first step of separation, which we call the separation of the accounts. So the two boards have agreed that they will proceed with the process of separation of the account, which by the end of this financial year, that is 30th June 2025, we will have them fully separated in terms of the account, and they are able to declare their own bonuses, and they are able to be paid separately as we have agreed. So that's the first step. The second step of separation, which is now the legal separation, then it will require a comprehensive step where we will have a consultant to be put in place who will value the assets of the satellite factory and see how they can now subscribe, the farmers of the satellite factory can subscribe to their own shares by paying off the farmers of the mother factory. So once they do that, that will be complete separation. At that point, they will have their own board of directors to do their own affairs independently. In the separation of the accounts, they will still have a common board to help them in management. But what will happen, the accounts will be different, and the farmers who are processing quality tea from any of the factories will now benefit directly out of the separation of the accounts. I think that is satisfactory. Which is a constitutional right. A constitutional right, which means that if you invest in owning any property, the only way you can separate from that property is that you must have adequate compensation. So that's a legal process. So if you go against that, then the farmers may have a recourse against you. So that is why we are saying the process must be according to the law, according to the Constitution, and according to the articles and memorandum of association of these particular factories. So there will be no conflict. All we need is to explain to the farmers. It's just like now you have your farm, and the government want to acquire your farm. There's a process of acquisition of that particular property. So that is the process we'll take the farmers through. So there will be no conflict because we will be able to articulate that process very well.